Minjun's works depict bright pink heads grinning maniacally against crystal blue skies. These pink-skinned caricatures of tightly shut eyes, contorted poses and white-bearing teeth, convey a sense of grotesqueness and absurdity. They could be replicated endlessly to form a mob of clones doubled over in hysterics. These unsettling figures create tension between superficial humor and the underlying seriousness, the lighthearted and the outrageous, the mundane and the excessive, offering an often implicit parody of modern-day Chinese society. His earlier laughing self-portraits transform into homogeneous masks of jaw-breaking grins in surreal settings. What remains is the enigmatic vacuous smile, variously interpreted as a sort of joke at the absurdity of it all, or the illusion of happiness in lives inevitably heading toward extinction. The smile reminds one of China's early social realist propagandistic works of smiling citizens feeling proud of their country, filled with invincible strength and a surge of warmth. Yet Minjun's smiles are disturbing, enduring a surge of pain, grinning in the face of political despotism. Minjun wants to criticize and confront the political issues in China, and the cynical mindset that he believed many Chinese felt towards their government, and their policies towards China's progress. Many citizens wanted greater political liberalization after enduring the failures of the Cultural Revolution, yet were forced by the government's oppressive and dictatorial fists to obey and conform, despite the latter embracing Western capitalist ideals. Minjun uses satire and irony as a way to respond to this widespread dissatisfaction and underlying uneasiness. In Chinese tradition, you can't say things directly. I wanted to show a happy smile and show that behind it is something sad, and even dangerous. He also wants to explore the fundamental agony of being human, and the sense of confusion that comes with living in his society, that is stripped off its spiritual and cultural roots due to the Cultural Revolution. His works offer a light-hearted philosophical inquiry of existence for the helpless citizens. When you've endured the maximum level of pain you can tolerate, all you could do is to laugh. In 1958, Chairman Mao Zedong, founding father of the People's Republic of China, started the Great Leap Forward, an attempt to transform China from an agricultural state into a society capable of competing with other Western industrialized nations. Every countryman was tasked to make steel on top of their farming duties. Alas, the plan was a huge economic failure. Despite the hopeful propaganda posters, steel quality was low, harvest size was reduced, resulting in the Great Chinese Famine that killed millions. In 1961, the program was stopped, and Mao's leadership was replaced with a capitalist approach. In 1966, however, Mao began the Cultural Revolution, a socio-political movement aimed to promote a true communist Maoist ideology by purging any capitalist and traditional elements from Chinese society. The military, urban workers and brainwashed youths ransacked museums, religious buildings and schools, and purged anyone who was against Mao. While Mao was adorned like a god, he created devastating political instability, widespread corruption, fear and poverty. After Mao Zedong's death, China underwent a brief period of political liberalization in an attempt to revitalize its failed economy due to the Cultural Revolution. It opened its economy to the world, strengthened diplomatic relations with the West, allowed greater freedom for citizens to make political criticisms openly, and enabled imports of various worldviews, such as democracy, capitalism and Western products, philosophies, literature and arts. Many youths became more daring to call for government accountability and freedom of speech. This escalated to the Tiananmen Square protests, where students marched, protested and called for change for 7 weeks. On June 4, 1989, they were forcibly suppressed by the government, who mobilized military attacks on them. Assault rifles were shot. Tanks ran over bodies. Almost 10,000 died, mostly civilians. Widespread arrests of protesters and supporters continued after the crackdown. Till today, that event is censored in China and highly regulated on the Chinese web. Commemorations are banned, as if the massacre never happened. Minjun was part of the cynical realism movement, a group of contemporary Chinese artists who painted the psychological fallout felt by the population, in response to China's rapid growth and ambiguous political ideology. Created after the Tiananmen Square crackdown, that spread fear amongst artists on rising state censorship, these works portray the ideas of the powerless individuals, under the powerful government body. Minjun also adopted the style of Chinese officially approved social realist paintings, in order to address the very superpower that he is criticizing. Figures are repeated to show enforced conformity and regimentation, celebrated as unity and camaraderie in communism. Colors are bright and brilliant, akin to the nation's hopes and dreams, perpetuated in propaganda posters. Pop art's grotesque colors and graphic illustrative styles and European masterpieces compositions also found their way into Minjun's works, subverting the grandiose Western ideologies that resulted in the blend of Chinese communism and capitalism. To prepare for his paintings, Minjun uses photographs of himself in various poses. He then employs traditional painting and sculpture techniques to create multiple clones of himself. Minjun's brushwork is smooth and well blended. All traces of brushwork are painstakingly concealed, appropriating a similar treatment by propaganda painters who painted Mao's face during the Cultural Revolution. His face had to be red, smooth and luminescent. His flesh must be modeled in red or other warm colors, and cool colors were avoided. Minjun uses exaggerated versions of these rules to paint his own figures, to remind viewers that these faces are merely the citizens' disguises, and protest against Mao's disguise as a supreme flawless leader. He also adopts the illustrative style of Western surrealist painters, to create the surreal scenes that only exist in the minds of many citizens. Some works have a flat application of paint, a nod to pop aesthetics, that exudes the capitalist and vacuous nature of his country.